At 83 years old, Frank Zane is doing something that would put most 30-year-olds to shame. While other bodybuilding legends from his era have either passed away or hung up their training gloves decades ago, this three-time Mr. Olympia champion is still pumping iron, coaching athletes worldwide, and living a life that completely shatters every stereotype about aging. What he's doing today isn't just surprising, it's downright unbelievable. And the secrets behind his longevity, they go far deeper than just lifting weights. Most people assume bodybuilders from the so-called golden era retired into quiet lives, living off past glory while their bodies broke down from years of punishment. Frank Zane took a completely different path. The man who once stood on stage next to Arnold Schwarzenegger and walked away with the victory is now proving that everything we think we know about aging, fitness, and what's possible in your 80s is completely wrong. But to understand how he got here, we need to go back to where it all started. And trust me, his beginning was nothing like you'd expect from a future champion. Kingston, Pennsylvania, 1942. The world was at war, and Frank Zane entered it as a frail kid who would become the target of relentless bullying. His family practiced a strict Protestant faith that set them apart in their community, and young Frank paid the price for being different. At just 14 years old, he weighed a mere 130 pounds. His skinny frame making him an easy mark for anyone looking for someone to push around. But something else happened that year that would change everything. His father, a man who'd worked hard his entire life, collapsed from the effects of years of alcohol and cigarettes. He didn't make it to 60. That image burned itself into Frank's mind, watching a strong man deteriorate, knowing that the same fate could be waiting for him if he didn't take control. So he made a decision. He walked into a gym and started lifting. Not to become a champion, not to win trophies, but simply to survive. To prove he wasn't weak. To build armor around himself that no bully could penetrate. Within a few years, the transformation was so dramatic that people barely recognized him. The 130-pound target had become a sculpted athlete with muscle definition that seemed almost unreal. But here's what most people don't know. While Frank was building his body, he was also building his mind. He earned a bachelor's degree in science and psychology, then went even further with a master's in experimental psychology. By day, he was teaching math and chemistry to high school students, earning himself the nickname the chemist. By night, he was in the gym, applying scientific principles to his training in ways nobody else was doing. This wasn't just some meathead lifting weights. This was a scholar engineering the perfect physique. The year was 1968, and the bodybuilding world was about to witness something nobody expected. A young Austrian oak named Arnold Schwarzenegger had just arrived in America, bringing with him a reputation that preceded him like thunder. Everyone assumed this massive, charismatic competitor would dominate his first major American competition, the Mr. Universe contest. Everyone was wrong. Standing across from Arnold was Frank Zane, weighing in at around 185 pounds, nearly 60 pounds lighter than the Austrian giant. When the judges announced Zane as the winner, shockwaves rippled through the bodybuilding community. How could someone so much smaller defeat the man who would go on to become the most famous bodybuilder in history? The answer was simple but revolutionary. Frank didn't try to outmass Arnold. He outsculpted him. While other competitors were chasing size, adding more and more bulk to their frames, Frank was chiseling away everything that wasn't perfect. His waist measured just 29 inches, smaller than most women's, while his shoulders, chest, and arms created a V-taper so dramatic it looked like it had been drawn by an artist. Every muscle was visible, every line was crisp, and under the stage lights, his body looked like a living anatomy chart. The judges saw what Frank had known all along. Bodybuilding wasn't just about being big, it was about being beautiful. And on that day, beauty beat the beast. Arnold would go on to dominate the sport for years, but Frank Zane remained one of only 3 men to ever defeat him in competition. That victory put Frank on a path that would redefine what a champion's body could look like. But the real reign was still ahead. From 1977 to 1979, Frank Zane didn't just win the Mr. Olympia, he owned it. 3 consecutive years at the top of the most prestigious competition in bodybuilding, proving that his philosophy of aesthetic perfection over sheer mass wasn't a fluke, it was the future. Competitors started studying his proportions, trying to figure out how someone who weighed 195 pounds on stage could beat guys who tipped the scales at 240 or more. The secret wasn't just in his training, it was in his mind, his discipline, his obsessive attention to every detail of his physique. He didn't just build muscle, he sculpted it with the precision of Michelangelo working on marble. Then came 1980, the year that should have been his 4th consecutive title. Frank had been training harder than ever. His conditioning was perfect, and he was ready to cement his legacy as one of the greatest ever. But fate had other plans. Just before the competition, a freak accident by the pool left him with injuries that stripped away 15 pounds of hard-earned muscle in a matter of weeks. He showed up to the Olympia looking smaller, less full, and for the first time in years, vulnerable. To make matters worse, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had retired years earlier, decided to make a surprise comeback. The competition was controversial, with many believing the judging was influenced by Arnold's star power and Hollywood connections. Frank placed 3rd. The following year, he competed again, but couldn't reclaim the title. In 1983, persistent shoulder injuries forced him to walk away from competitive bodybuilding for good. Most athletes would have been bitter. Most would have disappeared from the sport entirely. Frank did neither. Instead, he took everything he'd learned and started sharing it with the next generation. Here's where things get really interesting. While other bodybuilders were focused purely on the physical, Frank had been exploring something most people in the sport thought was nonsense. He'd started meditating at age 14, the same year he started lifting weights. For over 50 years, he's maintained a daily meditation practice, using mantras to eliminate negative thoughts and visualization techniques to literally see the results he wanted before he even touched a weight. He would close his eyes and mentally draw striations into his muscles, picturing every fiber contracting and expanding with perfect form. His competitors thought it was weird. Scientists now know he was way ahead of his time. Research has since proven that the mind-muscle connection Frank was using can increase muscle activation by up to 23%. When you focus intensely on the muscle you're working, you recruit more muscle fibers, generate stronger contractions, and build more effectively than if you're just mindlessly moving weight. Frank didn't need a study to tell him this. He felt it. He lived it. He even created something called the mind-muscle meditation machine, a system combining his knowledge of psychology with bodybuilding to help others tap into this same power. Remember, this is a guy with a master's degree in experimental psychology. He wasn't guessing. He was applying science to an art form that most people approached with pure brute force. His education gave him an edge nobody else had. While other bodybuilders were following cookie-cutter routines, Frank was analyzing muscle fiber types, understanding recovery periods, and manipulating training variables like a scientist conducting an experiment. He knew that building the perfect physique wasn't about working harder. It was about working smarter. And the key to working smarter was understanding that the brain controls everything. You can have the best genetics in the world, but if your mind isn't connected to your muscles, you're leaving results on the table. But there's another side to Frank's life that played an equally important role in his success. A side that involves a woman who's been by his side for nearly 6 decades. The year was 1966, and Frank was living in Florida when he got set up on a date by a woman's sister. That woman was Christine, and from the moment they met, something clicked. She wasn't just some random person. She was a bodybuilder herself, a competitor who understood the lifestyle, the dedication, and the sacrifices required to build an exceptional physique. In 1970, she won both the Miss America Bikini competition and the Miss Universe Bikini title, proving she was as serious about her own development as Frank was about his. They got married in 1967, and here's the part that'll blow your mind. They're still together today. 58 years of marriage in a sport known for broken relationships, inflated egos, and lives that fall apart the moment the spotlight dims. When people ask Frank what the secret is, he gives them an answer they don't expect. There is no secret. It's just respect, commitment, and the fact that they both share the same passion. They train together, they work together running the Zane Experience in San Diego, and they support each other through every challenge life throws at them. Frank has said multiple times that his biggest fear isn't death, it's leaving Christine behind. That's the kind of bond most people spend their entire lives searching for and never find. Frank found it at 24 and never let go. Christine isn't just his wife, she's his training partner, his business partner, and the person who keeps him grounded when the rest of the world wants to put him on a pedestal. Together, they've built a life that goes far beyond bodybuilding trophies and magazine covers. They've created a legacy of balance, proving that you can be obsessed with self-improvement without losing the people who matter most. Now here's where most stories about aging legends take a sad turn. The champion retires, gains weight, loses mobility, and eventually fades into obscurity while younger athletes take over. Frank Zane at 83 is rewriting that entire narrative. What he's doing right now, at an age when most people are lucky to walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded, will make you question everything you thought you knew about getting older. Pull up his Instagram account right now. Over 220,000 people follow him, and they're not there for nostalgia or throwback photos from the 1970s. They're watching a man in his 80s actively training with weights, posting videos of himself doing bicep curls with strict form, running through trisets designed to maintain muscle definition that bodybuilders half his age would envy. These aren't just token exercises to prove he can still move. This is legitimate training with intention, purpose, and results. The guy who once stood on stage at 195 pounds of pure muscle is still chasing that mind-muscle connection, still feeling every contraction, still treating his body like the temple he spent 7 decades building. But he's not delusional about it. Frank understands that his body at 83 operates under different rules than it did at 35. The traditional 3-day split routine he used during his competitive years, the one that helped him win 3 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles, would wreck him now. So he adapted. His current training follows a unique cycle that most people have never even heard of. 5 days of training followed by 5 days of complete rest. Then another 5 days on, followed by 6 days off. This modified approach prevents overtraining, gives his nervous system and joints adequate recovery time, and keeps him injury-free. It's the kind of intelligent programming you'd expect from someone with a master's degree in psychology who spent his entire career studying how the body responds to stress. The weights aren't the whole story though. Every single day, Frank incorporates yoga into his routine. Not the trendy Instagram version where people twist themselves into pretzel shapes for likes, but genuine stretching and flexibility work designed to maintain range of motion and prevent the stiffness that steals mobility from most people his age. He flows through poses that keep his spine supple, his hips mobile, and his shoulders functioning properly despite the decades of heavy pressing movements he's subjected them to. Combined with his meditation practice, something he's done daily since he was 14 years old, he's created a holistic system that addresses the mind, body, and spirit in equal measure. Then there's his cardiovascular work. While most bodybuilders treat cardio like a necessary evil to be endured only when trying to get lean, Frank has made treadmill walking an essential part of his daily routine. Not sprinting, not incline intervals that destroy his joints, just steady walking that keeps his heart healthy, his lungs strong, and his cardiovascular system functioning at a level most 60-year-olds would be thrilled to achieve. It's unglamorous, but it works. And Frank has never been interested in what looks cool, only what produces results. Here's what really separates him from the retired champions who've disappeared into comfortable obscurity. Frank is still coaching. Not just answering the occasional question on social media, but actively working with clients from every corner of the globe. People book flights to San Diego, spending thousands of dollars just to train with him for a few hours. To hear firsthand how he built one of the greatest physiques in bodybuilding history. To understand the mental techniques that allowed him to visualize results before they manifested in the mirror. These aren't beginners looking for basic advice. These are serious athletes, coaches, and trainers who understand that being in the presence of a living legend offers insights you simply can't get from watching YouTube videos or reading articles online. His knowledge goes so far beyond just sets and reps. He teaches people how to breathe properly during lifts, how to position their bodies to maximize tension on the target muscle while minimizing stress on the joints, how to use mental imagery to recruit muscle fibers most people don't even know exist. When Frank tells you to feel the stretch in the bottom position and squeeze at the top, he's not reciting some generic coaching cue. He's sharing a technique refined over 7 decades of experimentation, backed by his education in psychology, proven by 3 Mr. Olympia trophies sitting in his home. And get this, his net worth is estimated somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million. Read that again. One of the greatest bodybuilders who ever lived, a 3-time Mr. Olympia champion, a man who beat Arnold Schwarzenegger in competition, is worth less than teenagers making TikTok videos about their morning routines. Modern fitness influencers are pulling in millions from supplement sponsorships, online programs, and YouTube ad revenue. Some of them make more in a month than Frank accumulated in his entire career. But here's the thing that'll really mess with your head. Frank doesn't care. Not even a little bit. He never chased money. He never sold out to the highest bidder, or slapped his name on garbage supplements he didn't believe in just to cash a check. He chased perfection. He pursued an ideal that existed in his mind and wouldn't rest until his physical form matched that vision. You can't put a price tag on that kind of integrity. You can't measure in dollars the satisfaction of knowing you never compromised, never took shortcuts, never traded your principles for temporary profit. While other bodybuilders from his era sold their legacies for quick paydays, Frank protected his. And now at 83, he's wealthier than any bank account could make him because he's still healthy, still training, still married to the woman he loves, still teaching, still growing. The contrast is staggering when you really think about it. Most people his age are managing medications, scheduling doctor's appointments, and hoping they have enough mobility to enjoy their remaining years. Frank is scheduling training sessions, posting workout videos, and planning his next seminar. While his peers are declining, he's maintaining. While they're giving up, he's adapting. While they're reminiscing about the good old days, he's creating new memories and helping others transform their lives. What Frank's built instead is something far more valuable, a legacy that continues to influence bodybuilding today. In 2025, he published a massive 436-page manual covering everything he's learned about training, nutrition, and the mental side of bodybuilding. The Zane Gallery in Laguna Beach preserves the history of the golden era, ensuring that future generations understand where the sport came from and what it stood for before it became dominated by mass monsters and pharmaceutical experiments. Modern champions like Chris Bumstead, who represents the classic physique division, cite Frank as a primary influence. In 2015, Muscle and Fitness magazine named him the best physique of all time, beating out every competitor from every era. In 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself presented Frank with a Lifetime Achievement Award, acknowledging the man who once defeated him as one of the true greats. The IFBB inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 1999, cementing his place in history. A documentary about his life was filmed in 2020, capturing his story for audiences who never got to see him compete live. But here's what makes all of this truly remarkable. Frank isn't clinging to the past. He's not one of those bitter ex-champions who constantly complains about how bodybuilding has changed or how modern athletes don't respect tradition. He's living in the present, adapting to his age and continuing to push forward with the same intelligence and discipline that made him a champion in the first place. Think about the journey. A bullied 130-pound kid who watched his father deteriorate transformed himself into a 3-time Mr. Olympia champion, a man who beat Arnold Schwarzenegger when everyone said it was impossible, a husband who's been married for 58 years in an industry that destroys relationships, a scholar who applied psychology to bodybuilding decades before anyone else thought it mattered. And now at 83, he's still training, still teaching, still proving that the principles he built his life on, discipline, intelligence, balance, and the connection between mind and body, are timeless. Most people spend their lives looking for shortcuts. They want the results without the work, the glory without the sacrifice. Frank Zane represents the opposite of that mentality. He showed the world that true excellence comes from understanding yourself completely, respecting the process, and never stopping your pursuit of improvement no matter how old you get. The bodybuilders who relied purely on size have faded away. The ones who abused their bodies with reckless training and questionable substances paid the price. But the man who trained smart, who meditated daily, who built a balanced life with a partner who shared his values, he's still here, still thriving, still inspiring. His current mission is simple. He wants to help the next generation achieve what he achieved. Not just a great physique, but a balanced life where the mind, body, and spirit work in harmony. He's living proof that you don't have to sacrifice your health, your relationships, or your sanity to become legendary. You just have to be willing to think differently, work intelligently, and stay committed to the process for decades, not just months or years. Frank Zane didn't just survive the golden era of bodybuilding. He defined it, transcended it, and is now showing everyone what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations. At over 80, his life today should surprise you, because it proves that age really is just a number when you've spent your entire life training both your mind and your body with equal intensity. The kid who got bullied for being weak became the man who proved that true strength comes from within. And that's a lesson worth learning, no matter how old you are.